Hello, I'm Christine Silver. Welcome to How to Be a Good Employee, Episode 1, The Basics. You go to school, you get a job, and you know exactly what to do. Wrong! No one I know was ever taught how to be a good employee. So I'm making this series of videos. I've been in human resources for over 20 years, and I have seen a lot. Now, a lot of people think that HR is just on the side of the employer, but that's not necessarily true. Yes, there are differences between organizations, and not everybody does things right. But here's the deal. A good HR group does two things: supports the employer to do things legally and to do things right, and creates an environment for employees where they can be safe and do a good job. So that's where I'm coming from. Now, I'm doing this series of videos specifically for Women's Space because I know that Women's Space tries really hard to do things right, to follow the law and create an environment where employees can do the good work of the organization. Let's start with the basics. You apply for a job, you're interviewed, you get hired, you're given information about the job content and the pay and the hours and the working conditions. The organization pays you what they can afford and what the job is worth relatively, except where, they have the right to set the pay rates, except where regulations would guide that, minimum wage and so forth. Your manager, also known as your boss, your supervisor, your lead, tells you what good looks like and when you need to show up for work and where and all of that kind of job condition sort of stuff. They have the right to tell you what good looks like, when to do the job, how to do the job, and how you'll be judged based on how you're doing the job. When your boss tells you what time to be at work, you gotta do that. You gotta do the best job you can do. If you don't understand what the boss wants, you gotta ask. My first job that wasn't babysitting or working in a donut shop, I worked for a utility company, electric utilities. And my first job with them, my supervisor was very clear. He said, I'm going to teach you how to do this job. And I want you to do it in a certain way, the way that I teach you. You're expected to follow each step exactly. Now, when you've been doing this job for a while and you're really, really good at it, if you have suggestions, we can talk about that. But until then, just do it. That turned out to be really good advice because I was in my early 20s and I thought I knew more about how that thing should be done, and it was kind of complicated, but I learned how to do it and then went from there. That's the expectation. Work is not a democracy. You do not get to vote on how things are done. If there's something illegal or awful going on, then follow the channel to go and make leadership aware of that. But in terms of the processes and how to do it and when to do it, you don't get to vote on that. The organization sets the standards. As long as they're legal, they have the right to do that. Some examples are: don't show up drunk, hungover, or contagious. Please. If you can't make it to work, call your boss. Even if you have good reasons for not coming to work, if you don't show up often enough, you are going to lose your job. So even with good reasons, eventually, if you can't be there, can't do the job, we can't use you. That is the reality of the situation. If you're working in an office, dress appropriately, even if the public doesn't see you. Clean, neat, no pajamas, no slippers, no booty shorts, no t-shirts with rude sayings on them, no flip-flops. If you look like you're ready to party, you're not dressed for work. Okay, put your smartphones away. I really have to emphasize this. You're not there to work a little, whip out the phone. Work a little, whip out the phone. When you're working, work. You may not always have incoming calls or a bunch of tasks, so find out what you can do while you're at work being paid when you have downtime, like organizing something or learning something new, helping a coworker, like that. Now, if you're working from home, nobody's going to mind if you're wearing your jammies. But as a self-employed person for more than 15 years, I work from home, I can tell you that it just seems to work better if I actually get dressed and take work time seriously. If you're working from home, you are expected to be available during working hours. You can't just disappear for a couple hours. You got to be available. Again, I emphasize, if you're not available for work, and if you're not working when you're at work, we can't use you. You should be ready to show your work when you're asked, or your timesheet, or your records, or whatever it is. This sometimes comes as a surprise to people. Like, you can't ask me for that. Yeah, we can. So let's say you're either new at the job or you've just gotten a different job and you're in the learning process. Your boss is going to show you what to do. And the first time you do it, this is true of learning. First time you do it, you might be kind of awkward, not very good at it. So you get some feedback and you try it again and you get better. And then eventually you're allowed to fly on your own. Well, you're going to need to show what you're doing. So please don't get offended if you're asked. It's not micromanagement or harassment for your boss to ask you to prove what you're doing. All right, let's review. That was a lot of talking. I know. You have a job. You get paid to do it well. If you don't know what to do or you're doing it poorly, find out what you need to know so that you can do it well. If you're not doing it well and you get some feedback, then the expectation is you fix that and then you do it well. You are not entitled to keep your job. No one is entitled to keep their job. You have to do a good job to keep your job. That means working hard for your whole shift. It means jumping in to help other people. It means being polite, communicating well, and being open to feedback. Now, I will say, not every supervisor is very good at giving feedback. Okay, well, they're human beings too. So if you give feedback, you listen, try to work with your supervisor to figure out how to do it better. That's enough for today. Next time, I'll cover more of the legal stuff, punching a time clock and records and that kind of thing. All right, thanks, you guys.